It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of August 14th, 1992. We got 5 movies to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Jennifer Jason Leigh and Bridget Fonda in Barbet Schroeder's Single White Female. Single White Female. Did you see The Hand That Rocks the Cradle? Then you pretty much seen this movie. It's pretty much the same movie, except notable changes here and there. Obvious changes. There's no baby involved in here, but you still have another woman getting revenge on another woman, a woman getting revenge on another woman for some, so on and so forth. And honestly, it is pretty much the same movie as The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and it follows a lot of the same situations here. It's mostly a cautionary tale about, hey, if you're gonna put out an ad for somebody to come in and be your roommate, you might want to think about background checks, because clearly Bridget Fonda made the wrong decision here in this movie. And of course, if she didn't do that, then we wouldn't have a movie, which probably wouldn't be the worst thing about this movie. I will say this though. I will say that it's slightly better than The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Sort of. I mean, Hand That Rocks the Cradle was just a movie that just didn't work on any level, mostly because you couldn't believe Rebecca De Mornay as the antagonist of the movie. What makes this movie different, though, is that Jennifer Jason Leigh, I think, plays a better antagonist role in this movie. I mean, I think she plays that role a lot better in this movie than De Mornay did in Hand That Rocks the Cradle. But, other than that, though, there really wasn't anything too tense or exciting about this movie, in my opinion. I just looked at it and I was just like, I've seen this before, and I haven't seen it. Me personally, I don't think it was done very well, but when you talk about these type of movies, this is usually one of the ones that get brought up almost instantaneously. Plus, you got Barbet Schroeder, who had just done Reversal of Fortune, which won Jeremy Irons an Academy Award before that. And then he did Barfly after that, and after that, there wasn't really a whole lot there that he did afterward that really stood out, honestly. When I think about the movies that he did afterwards, like Kiss of Death, Desperate Measures, Murder by Numbers, just a lot of movies that were just there. They didn't really do a whole lot there in particular, but, the movie did have a following. It was a huge hit when it came out, and I don't know, maybe people just like this concept enough to make it work. Me personally, I didn't think it worked as well as I think everybody else thought it did, but, and again, there's an audience for everybody, so overall, I liked it a little bit better than Hand That Rocks the Cradle, but that's not really saying a whole lot because that movie was bad. This one is just meh. It's just mediocre, to say the least, at least in my opinion. So that's Single White Female. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is John Ritter in Stay Tuned. So here we have another one of those comedies that used to be on HBO a lot back in the 1990s. I mean, you really couldn't go. I think there were a couple of days. There were days where there was a stretch where every single day you would at least see this movie one time on TV throughout much of the 90s. I mean, it was all over the place. And I found myself watching it several times back then. But even then, I realized that the movie never really reaches that potential that this has here. You have a really good idea here, a dark satirical comedy with an interesting premise and concept behind it, but because it's PG, we're going to put zero effort into the parodies themselves. I mean, really, the parodies in this are not really all that funny, and they're just kind of lazy, too, like The Silencer of the Lambs, 3 Men and Rosemary's Baby, Unmarried with Children, Northern Overexposure, Saturday Night Dead. I mean, you gotta come up with some better jokes like that. I mean, there are a couple of jokes here that do work. I like that Three's Company parody they did in the trailer. And then you got Chuck Jones to do a really good animated sequence there, and it is it's a legitimately funny sequence. I mean, those are the two moments where I really thought, okay, this is where you're using a lot of that potential. And, I mean, John Ritter and Pam Dawber are doing their best here, and I think Jeffrey Jones can play a decent bad guy, but overall, the movie just doesn't work. And I think it was because Tim Burton was attached to do this at one point, but instead he decided to do Batman Returns. And really, I think Tim Burton probably could have made this work, especially with, at that point in his career, he had just come out with Scissorhands, but instead he decided to do Batman Returns, which financially probably worked out better for him. But, I mean, overall, as it stands, Stay Tuned is just kind of a very interesting concept, but the overall film itself really has nothing to work with at the end. A couple of decent scenes, a couple of good scenes for the cast, working with the material given to them. The comedy is very mediocre. The lack of a good narrative to work with, it makes this movie kind of fall apart pretty quickly. It never takes the chances that I think it really should have taken, and really, it just didn't work as a film for me. So it's a movie that's a movie that just didn't work. So stay tuned. That's pretty much all I got to say about that one. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is James Woods and Louis Gossett Jr. in the boxing drama Digtown. I say it's a drama, but it is pretty much a mix of a comedy. It's a dramedy because there are funny moments, as you see in that trailer here, and overall, the movie itself is actually pretty decent. I actually watched this one time a couple years ago, and overall, I was pleasantly surprised by it. There was a lot in there that I thought was funny. I thought James Woods was very good. I think him and his chemistry with Louis Gossett Jr. is very good. Bruce Dern is great in the film. You got Heather Graham in here, Oliver Platt. Just a great cast overall here. Michael Ritchie, the director of this movie, of course, made some great movies like Bad News Bears, Semi-Tough, Fletch, not Fletch Lives, The Golden Child. So it's an overall pretty enjoyable movie. It's a movie that's very underrated, but overall, when you watch the film, it actually does live up to a lot. It does actually work more than I think it doesn't work. There's more in this movie that I like that I didn't like. So that's probably the best way to describe it. But if you're looking for a good James Woods movie, this is definitely worth it. Especially even if you're looking for a good Louis Gossett Jr. movie. This certainly beats the crap out of Ace's Iron Eagle 3, because that really is something for an Academy Award-winning actor to say yes to. But yeah, Digtown was actually pretty decent. I'd say definitely check it out if you can get a chance to see it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is The Living End. So basically, if you don't know what the plot was from that trailer, you have this guy. He's a reckless drifter, and he meets this other guy who's a pessimistic film critic. They're both gay and HIV positive. And after they meet, Luke kills a homophobic police officer. They go on a road trip with the motto of "fuck everything." So in a way, it's kind of a mix of a gay Thelma and Louise, but I also kind of see it as kind of a gay Bonnie and Clyde, because it's kind of the same. It's kind of that same story a little bit, but I can't really say anything too much about it because I haven't seen it. But it looks like a movie that really would have been. That really is what it is, as seen as an early entry to the new queer cinema genre that was taking place at the time period. And this director has also done stuff like Totally Fucked Up, The Doom Generation, Nowhere, Splendor, Mysterious Skin, Smiley Face, Kaboom. So this guy's got a lot of different movies on his plate here. And like I said, I can't really comment on it too much because I haven't seen it, but I could see the appeal of this movie overall. I think it looks like a movie that could be very enjoyable. But like I said, I can't comment on it too much because I haven't seen it. I can only acknowledge that it came out this weekend, and it looks pretty promising. So that's The Living End. Let's go ahead and move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is Brad Pitt starring in Johnny Suede. So I think you can pretty much get the plot right there. You got this guy who wants to be like a rock and roll star, like Ricky Nelson, his idol, and he has everything he needs except for a pair of black suede shoes. He actually gets them, and soon his world kind of turns around. He meets this girl who's a sultry bohemian with whom he beds down for the night. In spite of Darlette's abusive, gun-toting boyfriend, Johnny begins to see Darlette every day. But when Johnny is forced to pawn his guitar for rent money, Darlette leaves him. Johnny's pal Deke fronts him the money to get his guitar out of Hawk and the two form a band. And he wanders aimlessly to find this girl, and he meets another girl named Yvonne, who's a woman much wiser than Johnny, who teaches him that there are more things in life than a pair of black suede shoes. And I read that off Wikipedia because, again, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really comment on it. But this movie's notable because Brad Pitt, he made this movie before he became the star that he was in '92. This was before Thelma and Louise. This was before Cool World. And Miramax saw this movie, and Harvey Weinstein was urged by one of the people at Miramax to get the rights to this movie for a film that he hadn't seen, and it paid off in the end because it won the Best Picture at the International Film Festival in Lorcana, and it actually went on to become and to seal the distribution deal. The film didn't make a ton of money at the box office because it was only in one release, one cinema, and it only made $90,000 out of a budget of $500,000. But I'm assuming the film made back its money once video sales came into play, and overall, it doesn't look like a bad movie. It looks like a movie that is kind of a breakout performance for Brad Pitt. So, and yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about it because I haven't seen this movie. I can't comment on it, but I can acknowledge that it came out this particular weekend. So, there you go. That's Johnny Suede. And with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll look at the movies of August 21st, 1992, including Brandon Lee and Rapid Fire, the first of several Christopher Columbus movies that came out in 92, Christopher Columbus: The Discovery. We have the comedy The Gun and Betty Lou's Handbag, the polarizing animated film Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, A Brief History of Time, Light Sleeper, and The Ox. So 6 movies to look at next time around. With that said, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.